What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. We are doing a 7-year review on my 421 serval that was built by Redline Racing. Yeah, so I've had this bike since 2016. The motor is brand new. When I got it built by Redline, I literally gave them cases. I got the cylinders, the carbs, and everything else. And of course, some of the electronics that I had were still good, like the stator cover and the flywheel and all that. So I do have a shit ton of hours on this machine. I don't know exactly how many it is because I didn't run an hour meter, but I mean, 7 years on a motor that I have not rebuilt is awesome to have. It's a pretty long time for 7 years. So I have not done the top end on this thing, and I have not touched the motor at all. The only thing I've done was literally change plugs every now and then just for good measure, change the transmission fluid, and just clean the carbs for the most part. And that was basically it. This is a really good motor for the trails, guys. It's relatively affordable for the most part, which is good for people that don't have a lot of money. I did get every little nick, bit, and cranny that I could for this bike, motor-wise at least. You know, I got the cases ported to match with the cylinders and everything, and you know, I didn't skimp out on it, that's for sure. But yeah, we had brand new carbs, brand new cylinders, new top end, brand new crank in there. And basically the whole heart of the motor, besides the cases and electronics, were brand new. The sniper pipes have been working great on this machine. I mean, I'm only like 172 to 175 pounds, depending. So for other people, depending on what you're doing with the bike, you may want a different pipe, but this pipe is great. The motor has plenty of low end because the port timings have not really been raised that much. So we do get a good top end with this sniper pipe, and it still has tons of bottom end. It's just a great overall motor for woods riding and duning. And we're not hating on the Cubs by any means, but the servals have definitely come a long way since they first came out. And especially for those people that are a little bit more heavier in weight, this is a great motor to have for sure. You still keep that good low end, and you can definitely get it to scream a lot depending on the pipe that you have on there. But yeah, this is really awesome that 7 years have gone by. I have not replaced one single reed pedal. Those are still good. The bike still rips. It feels as powerful as the day that I literally installed it into the bike. The motor was dyno tuned, and we did get around 90 horsepower, 50 torque. I'll show you a graph on that right now just so you can kind of take a look at it. All right, guys, as promised, here is the dyno chart. And you can see we're right at basically 89.62 horsepower, which you could just round it off the 90, and 51 torque actually. But you can see that it does have a nice curve to it. And if you look, so right around 6,500 RPMs, it only takes like 1,000 RPMs to get to max torque, and it revs all the way out to 10 while keeping that torque. So when you're getting off the gas and the RPMs start going down, you have a good amount of time to still stay in that peak torque power curve, which is awesome to have. So a lot of graphs that you see sometimes, you just see it be very peaky and you get like peak horsepower. You know, obviously these engines, the more they rev, they make more power, but you see like sometimes a lot of graphs, they're just like this, and they just kind of get their peak power at top, where this motor, it builds it nice and gradually, and it's, for the most part, let's see if I could focus over here, at like 8K, you're almost at basically peak horsepower. You're only 10 horsepower off, and these things easily rev out to 10K or not more depending on the pipe. But yeah, look at that torque curve. That is incredible. That is great. If you have a torque curve like that, you have a great motor, and it's going to be a ton of fun. So can I get more horsepower out of this motor? Yes, I can. For a little bit higher port timings and whatnot, and running race fuel, I could definitely get some more power. But at the same time, I want to keep all that bottom end that it has, because it's great. That's what you need for trails. You need a good torque curve. You need all that grunt. You don't need a very peaky motor. You want something that gets on the power fast, and that's exactly what these types of motors do. So that is one of the reasons why I highly recommend them. All right, let's get back outside and we'll go look at the quad. All right, so yeah, that was the graph, guys. As you can see, it was right around 90 horsepower, 50 torque for the most part, and that is on pump gas with an airbox, which is great. So plenty of power for the woods. Do you really need a bigger motor? No, not necessarily. Does like a 10 millimeter motor help with a little bit of low end off the bottom? For sure, definitely. Would I really go bigger than a 10 mil for woods riding? Absolutely not. Definitely not needed for sure. But this machine has been great to me. It's gone through a lot of hell. Definitely a bunch of seasons in the dunes with a good amount of hours on them. And I do have a video on my channel a while back that I'll actually post a link in the description if you want to check it out. I go over all the mods on this bike. I do show the dyno graph again and some other things. I just kind of go over the whole thing, but this is more just a review for 7 years of ownership on the original motor and no rebuilds done whatsoever. Some of the best things that you can do when you're building these motors is, obviously, once it's done, you want to make sure that there's no air leaks and that you jet the motor properly. And of course, you don't want to cheap out on the parts, you know what I mean? Especially with the crank and stuff like that. You want to make sure that you get a good quality crank that's been true and welded with the good bearings on there as well. This one has the max load and TZ bearings. If I'm not mistaken, I'm like almost 99% positive that that's the type of bearings that are on the crank. And like I said, we've had no issues, and I beat the living snot out of this thing, no doubt. There's been times where this thing definitely overheated for sure, and there was a lot of smoke coming out by the radiator. So it's not like this thing has not been beaten on, and it just keeps on kicking. I've had no problems. I had this thing sitting for a couple months, and I just started it up recently. It started on the third kick, actually. You know, that's not bad considering that, you know, after a while, the gas, like, you won't see it in the fuel lines, and when I turned it on, you know, I did see it go down. So third kick, I'm happy with that. You cannot go wrong with that. Yeah, so the Elka shocks have been good on this bike. There's plenty of different shocks out there nowadays. The Fox floats and stuff like Fox shocks, you can't go wrong with those as well. Definitely lightweight, and you could adjust them on the fly, which is great. If I had to do it over again, yeah, I'd probably get some Fox shocks. But there is nothing wrong with the Elkas and the other stuff that's available out there. So, you know, you get what you want and what you can afford. I would definitely get some different type of front shock, or I should say a better shock for the Elkas, like at least a stage 4 or stage 5. So those are just like a stage 2 that's on there. It's nothing special at all, but it does okay. So not really too worried about it. I haven't really put any money into this machine at all, actually, since it was built. You know, you pay once, you cry once, and you do it right the first time, and you'll have a motor that lasts a long time. I'm on 7 years now, guys. That's a pretty good amount of time. Usually you're seeing motors blow left and right, but usually that's because the motor isn't jetted right and the motor has air leaks. Air leaks are key. If you have an air leak, your jetting will not be correct at some point, and you will create a lean condition, and the motor could blow. We got that old school skin seat cover on there, and it's ripped. There's some other kind of cover under here actually, but this is my woods beater bike. It's my beater Banshee, and where I live, obviously, it's not like we don't have any sand dunes, unfortunately. So we did run an air box on this thing just to give it a little bit more environmental friendly with the water and stuff like that, including the mud. And we went with pump gas domes to make the bike run on pump gas because, you know, $10 a gallon on race fuel kind of sucks after a while. I did it for 4 years on my 10 mil DM, which I trail rode, which is, you're able to do that. And a lot of people actually thought, oh no, you can't trail ride a DM. Yep, I did it for 4 seasons, guys. It's possible, but you know, it's definitely overkill for sure, no doubt. Any motor like this for regular woods riding, you definitely want to stay at least on a stock swing arm, or even like a -1 or 2, depending on what you want to do, just so that you can get some better traction. I chose pump gas because at the time when I did this 7 years ago, gas wasn't as expensive as it is nowadays, but it is still cheaper than running 110. It wouldn't be a bad idea to probably run some 50-50 and maybe bump up the timing a little bit. Definitely get a little bit more pep out of this thing for sure, but the timing is set at +4 and it runs great on pump gas. I am totally content with this thing. The only thing that has seemed to go on this thing is this light bar that I bought for years. I've been using it, and it just, some of these electrode lights are not working, and you know, that's typical for a machine that's getting bounced around to shit for so many years that, you know, the light bar is not going to always stay in perfect condition. But yeah, guys, definitely check out that other video that I have that goes over the full list of the bike with all the mods, the dyno chart, and everything else that I have on this machine. Check it out in the description below. If I had to do this again, would I absolutely make one of these motors? Abso-freaking-lutely. These are great motors. The servals have come a long way. They're reliable. They have great low end, and you can really make them scream up top too. So they're just awesome motors to have. And what's nice about these servo motors, especially if the exhaust port isn't raised too high for the porting, you get that good low end, and the power starts getting on a lot earlier than the Cub, where you really got to clutch it more in the woods, and you really got to keep the RPMs up higher just to kind of stay in that power band. As you saw on the chart, this thing, you can literally, if you rev this thing out to the max, and then you get off the throttle, you have a little bit to stay off the throttle to still be in the power range, as you saw on the dyno chart. So this motor is paired with 35mm carbs, Keyens. They're great carbs, and everybody runs them for the most part. Can you run stock carbs on this thing? Absolutely. Can you run some T5 pipes, which is a popular trail pipe for a lot of people? Yep, you sure can, which is the great thing, is that you have a lot of options with this motor. I do like these sniper pipes for this particular motor. It has worked great on it, and I'm pretty happy with it, for sure. These old school AC Nerf bars, these things are clutch. I love these things. Not a lot of people like them. There's definitely other ones out there, but I do have a good liking for these. And the reason is because of the kickstart space that you have when you go to kickstart this thing. There is room where you can kick it down and you're not kicking with the back of your heel, which sucks, especially on like a bigger motor. The only thing that has happened, and this will always happen with every Banshee with age, is that I got the kickstart rattle. It just needs to be rebuilt because it, it moves around when the thing's running, and it does make some noise, but I'm not too worried about that. That's something I could always fix down the road. So let's just do a little sound check. I mean, I did ready start the bike up, and it's fully warm, so it's not gonna be like, oh, this is a cold start, one kick, but oh. So anyway, as you can see, the bike does sound great. It starts right up. I didn't get a good kick, obviously, when I did that first one, but bike runs awesome. I definitely recommend these motors to people. Definitely run some engine ice or some good coolant in there and a bigger impeller, because it will help with the cooling, and you could always go a little bit fatter on the jetting as well to help with not making so much heat. I do always run a temp gauge on my bikes just so I can kind of keep track of them, because as long as you're moving and you're not just sitting there and just spinning the tires for a long time, the bike will stay relatively cool for the most part. But I do run this little gauge on here, and it's not always 100% accurate. I think that one's probably shit the bed, to be honest with you, because it's been so long since I had it. But any type of temp gauge for a 421 and up is definitely needed, in my opinion, just to make sure. And if the thing's getting, so for me, I had it here so I could always just peek over when I'm sitting on it, and if it got to this red point over here, I would know to shut it down, and I have time to do so. And the majority of the time, I've never had to really shut it down. Here and there I have, but that's just because, like I said, I was just literally, just spinning the tires, not really moving a lot. Airflow is definitely key for keeping these machines cool. I do run one of those aftermarket oversized radiators from eBay. I've had it for years now, and it's worked out very well for me. Fitment was good. I believe the type of radiator that I have is ASI. I'm pretty sure I mentioned it in the video where I did a whole review on this thing, but if not, I'm pretty sure it was the ASI one, so you could check those out on eBay. And I remember, I think now the price has gone up on those, but I got the radiator for like 50 bucks shipped years ago, and it's been great ever since. Not really any dents in the fins for the most part. Just got a little bit of dirt in there, but yeah, it looks good. And fitment was great, and it's been working out great for me. Never had an issue with it. Gotta love these ASVC6 levers. I would recommend these to anybody. These things are awesome. ASVC6, great levers. I do say some stuff about that in the other video. So anyway, guys, yeah, this is my 7-year review on my 421 serval built by Redline Racing. Huge shout out to Cam for a great motor that has lasted me a long time with no issues at all. Very happy with it. And props to all the Banshee HQ sponsors over the years that have supported this sport and still keep these machines up and running and alive to this day. If it wasn't for them, you know, we may not have all the stuff that we have now, and there's a lot of scammers out there, so you can't go wrong with using them. But of course, do your research before you do anything with anybody. And, you know, obviously if you're buying a used part off Facebook or wherever it is, if you can't see it in person, make sure you use PayPal. And if they don't accept it for using goods and services to protect you, then do not buy the part, no matter how much you fucking want it. I mean, unless it's someone that you've done, you know, business with over the years and you've gotten a bunch of parts. But sometimes you just can't trust people. So if you're buying new stuff off of Facebook Marketplace or wherever, make sure PayPal, goods and services. That's it. There's nothing more that you can do to protect yourself than do that. You see so many people get scammed nowadays, and it sucks, but it happens to a lot of people. So if you just make sure you use PayPal, goods and services, and they take it, you should be good and you'll be protected. So if something doesn't happen, at least you got PayPal on your back. All right, guys, so that's going to do it for the video. If you like seeing reviews like this, I can do one on my 10 mil DM and my 20 mil DM as well. Leave a comment down below. Give me a thumbs up, and I'll probably do another video like that. As always, guys, I thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.